Okay, fifth, sixth, and seventh period. You know the drill. I am not there at the moment. I do have an appointment at 1:30, so most likely I will not see sixth period, and I will probably come late into seventh period. I will leave early for fifth, not see sixth, and I will come late for seventh. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and still keep the same jobs for fifth, sixth, and seventh. Diamond Martin for fifth, please help the sub for check and roll. Most likely I will do that before I leave. Herbert Briggs, please make sure you manage the computer. For sixth period, Autumn Jackson, please help the sub with checking roll. And Benjamin Harris, please manage my computer. For seventh period, in case for some strange reason, my appointment gets pushed back and I have to wait longer, Lily Shelton, please help the sub checking roll. Jada Owens, please manage my computer. Tashira Parker, please turn off my projector once class is over. The remote control will be up there. You just got to press the red button twice. And then everyone, please make sure that all of my calculators are on top of the desk number with the cover on it. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and continue explaining some questions. I hope I don't have to reiterate myself when I say that you should know how to behave when there is a sub. I expect great notes, not just good notes, but great notes from the sub. With that said, let's go ahead and pull out your homework. If you haven't already, go ahead and pull it out. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to go ahead and pull it out, and we're going to look at it and go back to the front and maybe do a couple of problems there. We will probably wrap up this homework on tomorrow. I will be back today after school. I believe I have a meeting. However, it should be a short meeting, so I will have my room open and I will come back. It really should not take that long. And if I see that it is going to take long, I'm just going to go ahead and let them know at the meeting that I do have to come back for tutorials. So let's go ahead and look at I know I've done B, 1B, 1D, and 1F. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1A, 1C, and 1E. I'm going to do those with you. So the first one I'm going to do is cotangent of pi. Cotangent of pi. So while you're pulling out all of that stuff, I'm going to go ahead and quickly just go ahead and get a copy of the unit circle on this computer so that you'll be able to also follow along with me. Alright, so for 1A, let me go ahead and adjust my paint notepad here. Alright, so let's look at 1A. Well, hold on, I'm not liking the way this is. Okay, that might be best. 1A, yeah, that's better. Alright, so 1A says cotangent of pi. Okay, so I want to make a connection. Remember that we said, let's make a connection right here. Tangent is the reciprocal, or in other words, the partner of cotangent. And remember, with the unit circle, if you're looking at the unit circle, we said that in order for you to get tangent, that is y over x. So let's make a connection. If the reciprocal of cotangent is tangent right here, and tangent is y over x, what do you think cotangent will be? Remember, what is the relationship between those two? Right, the relationship is that they are reciprocals of one another. So in other words, if I want to know the relationship or the ratio for cotangent, what do I have to do to this fraction right here? Correct, I have to flip it. So the relationship will be x over y. And that's exactly what I'm going to use here. So now we are going to go to the unit circle and we are going to look at pi. And actually you do know where pi is. So let me go ahead and quickly draw that. Even though we have the unit circle, we know that pi is exactly right here. It's actually not going to form a triangle. And we also do know, or at least we should start noticing, that that coordinate is -1, 0. So how do I rewrite this part? Look at your conclusion right here. We said that cotangent was x over y. So what is the x coordinate out of these two values here? The x coordinate is -1 over, what is the y coordinate? 0. Okay, if you were to type that in your calculator, go ahead and do that right quick for me, and please tell me what you get. Okay, you should have gotten undefined, or an error. And usually with error, that means that our answer is going to be undefined. Remember, you can have a 0 on the top, but you can never have a 0 in the denominator. So our answer for this one is going to be undefined. Let's just quickly look at the unit circle. Here's pi right here. That x value is -1 and that y value is 0. So you're going to have -1 over 0, which is what we actually got, and we got undefined. Try to stay away from the unit circle as much as you can. Again, because most of your college professors, if you do take pre-cal and calculus at that level, they're not going to give you a unit circle, so you're going to have to know how to convert, where your angle is, and what the reference angle is. Remember, at this point, our reference angles will be either 45, 30, or 60. One of those. Unless it actually falls on one of the axis, the x or y axis. Okay, let's look at the next one. Let's look at 1C. 1C. So if we look at 1C right here, it says secant of 3 pi over 4. Secant of 3 pi over 4. Okay, let me go ahead and get a new one. I don't like the way this is looking. Alright, so we have secant of 3 pi over 4. Now remember, I said I don't like secant, I don't like cotangent, I don't like cosecant. So I'm going to rewrite it into one of the original three, which is sine, cosine, and tangent. And remember that the relationship between those is that they are reciprocal of one another, reciprocals of one another. So I'm going to flip all of that and put it 1 over. But when I flip it, I'm going to change the trig. And the partner for secant is cosine of 3 pi over 4. Okay, so now I am with one of my regular trigs. So now the next thing is for you to go ahead and convert 3 pi over 4 to degrees. So if you convert that to degrees very quickly, I'll give you some time to do that, and please tell me what you get. You should have gotten 135 degrees. Okay, so from here, I now have to figure out what to do. Well, you have to first draw your reference triangle and figure out the angle you're going to, your reference angle, the angle you're going to be using. So at this point, where is 135 degrees? 135 degrees is in the second quadrant, right here. So if I go ahead and drop my triangle, create a right triangle, and let's go ahead and label. We know that on the outer ends, those were the opposites. Inside was the hypotenuse, and on the x-axis was the adjacent. Now, let's go ahead and find this out. If from here to here is 135 degrees, what is that small piece that's inside the triangle? Remember when we created those generic equations, if you're in quadrant 2, that means you're going to have to say 180 minus theta. So we're going to say 180 minus 135, and you get 45 degrees. So that will be your reference triangle. It's going to be a 45, 45, 90. So this angle right here is going to be 45. Well, that's pretty good because most of y'all know what those legs are. That is going to be 1, 1, radical 2. But more specifically, it's going to be -1 down here because it's going in the left direction. So now we can go ahead and finish our question. Cosine is what ratio? SOHCAHTOA. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to say this is now equal to 1 over adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, that's great because now I can say, well, that is equal to 1 over, let's go to our triangle right quick. What's adjacent? Adjacent is -1. And then what's hypotenuse? Hypotenuse is √2. Okay, then what is this method right here? That method is copy, change, flip. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's copy that first number, change that fraction in the middle to division, and let's flip that right here. And when we flip it, we get radical 2 over -1. Essentially, what happens to your 1's, they go away, leaving you just with what on the top, a radical 2, and what on the bottom, a negative. So in other words, it just becomes negative radical 2. And that is your answer for C, 1C. All right, let's take a look at 1E. One E says cosine of 11 pi over 6. Okay, this one is already in your original 3, so there's no need to flip or anything because I do like cosine. I'm happy with cosine. So from here, the only thing that I have to do is basically change that 11 pi over 6